Hello everyone, welcome back to online lecture series on heat transfer. Today we are beginning our new topic which is steady state heat conduction. So let's begin. So our first theory is Fourier's equation. Fourier's equation is fundamental concept for heat conduction. So experimental evidence indicate that steady state one-dimensional flow of heat by conduction through a homogeneous material is given by Fourier's law, and it is given by this equation, which is Q is equal to minus Ka dt by dx. We have already studied this equation in our previous chapter, and if you see that when Fourier's law is applicable, it is applicable for steady state, it is applicable for one-dimensional flow of heat conduction, and the material should be homogeneous. We will discuss all these points one by one. So the formula for Fourier equation is Q is equal to minus Ka dt by dx, where Q is equal to rate of heat flow in kilojoule per second. A is the area perpendicular to the direction of heat flow in meter square. Dx is the thickness of the material along the path of the heat flow in meter, and dt is the temperature difference between two surfaces across which the heat is passing in degree Kelvin or degree centigrade. Now we will draw one figure, a simple figure, which will explain this formula in a proper way. So here we will draw a wall like this. So let us say that this portion of wall, that is left portion of wall, left side of wall, is at temperature T1, and this end is at, that is right hand side end, is at temperature T2, and this will be the heat will be passing from high temperature to low temperature, so direction of flow of heat will be this, which is Q, and the area of this wall will be this. So this will be the total area A, and this will be this will be the thickness of the wall, which can be written as dx. Okay, so this heat Q is flowing perpendicular to the wall. The temperature difference here is T1 minus T2, and in our equation dT, that is the temperature differential, if you see this case, then it will be T1 minus T2. Okay, and then we can simply write down that Fourier equation Q, which is equal to minus K, which is thermal conductivity, A is the area of the wall, and the temperature differential divided by the thickness. So in this way we can explain this Fourier's equation for this simple wall. And if you see carefully, then the heat flow is only in one direction, which is on x direction. If you draw the axis, this will be our x and this will be our y. So heat is not flowing in y direction, nor heat is flowing in the z direction. Okay, so in this way it is working. dT is temperature difference between two surfaces across which the heat is passing in degree Kelvin or degree centigrade. And another definition is the heat flux Q. The heat flux Q, that is heat conducted per unit area per unit time, flows along normal to the area in the direction of decreasing temperature. So what is heat flux? When we divide this Q with a capital A, then the right hand side will be minus K dt by dx, and that is called as heat flux Q. It flows along normal to the area A in the direction of decreasing temperature. Now there are few assumptions in Fourier's equation that we need to see. First is steady state heat conduction. Now what is the meaning of this? The meaning of steady state heat conduction is the value of temperature does not change with respect to time. That is, temperature is not function of time. Second is one directional heat flow. It is possible that heat can flow in all three directions, x, y and z. But the previous equation that we studied, that is Q is equal to minus K dt by dx, is only applicable for the x directional heat flow. Isotherm character of bounding surfaces. Now we will see what is the meaning of isotherm character of bounding surfaces. If you see this figure carefully, then this is the one end, this end, the other is this end, which is not visible on this screen, from where the heat is first striking. That is, this wall is said to be at T1 temperature and this wall is said to be at T2 temperature. Now the isotherm character is that this entire wall, if we consider the right hand side of the wall, then this entire wall is assumed to be at temperature T2. Similarly, for the left hand side wall, this entire wall is at temperature T1 only. Okay. So that is called as isotherm nature of bounding surfaces. Fourth is isotropic and homogeneous material. Now we will study about what is isotropic and homogeneous material in our next theory. Constant temperature gradient and linear temperature profile. So what is the meaning of this? Here this temperature gradient is assumed to remain constant and the temperature profile is assumed to be linear. So temperature profile will be of simple character. And there is no internal heat generation, so we have assumed that there will not be any kind of heat generation or heat addition inside the walls. Now there are some essential features of Fourier equation that we need to study. First is it predicts how the heat is conducted through a medium from a region of high temperature to a region of low temperature. So this is a very obvious thing, because this entire Fourier equation gives us the value of Q, which is heat is conducted through a medium, and obviously heat will be conducted from high temperature region to low temperature region. Now it is valid for all matter regardless of its state. That is, the Fourier's equation is applicable for solids, liquids as well as gases. It is a vector expression indicating the heat flow is normal to isotherm and in the direction of decreasing flow. Now if you remember our formula, Q is equal to minus Ka dt by dx, then we were not indicating any kind of vector sign inside this formula. However, this formula or equation is based on some particular direction only. That is, the heat flow is normal to the isotherm and it is in the direction of decreasing temperature. So direction is very important for the heat flow, and Fourier's equation considered this direction. Fourier's law cannot be derived from the first principles. It is a generalization based on the experimental evidence. So if you remember our formula, we had simply and directly written that formula without going into how it is being derived. Actually it is not derived because it is purely based on the experimental evidence only. Fourier's law helps in defining a transport property, that is thermal conductivity of heat conducting medium. So with the help of Fourier equation we can define a new property which is called as thermal conductivity, and we will see this in our next slide. So now we will define the thermal conductivity. Q is equal to minus Ka into dt by dx, that is our formula. Now here Here in this equation, if you see, we will assume dx to be 1 meter, area to be 1 meter square, and dt to be 1 degree Celsius. Then Q will become K. For a while we will not consider the negative sign. Hence the thermal conductivity is defined as the amount of heat conducted per unit time, that is, this is the value of Q. So if you see, amount of heat conducted per unit time is actually Q across a unit area. Why? Because we have assumed that A will be 1 meter square. That's why it is unit area through a unit thickness. Why unit thickness? Because we have also assumed dx to be 1 and this is also 1. Area is also 1. When a temperature difference of unit degree, so this value is of 1 degree Celsius is maintained across the bounding surface. So whenever these conditions are satisfied, that is unit area, unit thickness and unit temperature difference, then Q, that is the heat conducted per unit time, will be equal to a quantity which is known as thermal conductivity. So this is the way we can define the thermal conductivity. And the magnitude of thermal conductivity tells us how well material transports energy by conduction. Now there are few important remarks on thermal conductivity which we will see one by one. First is, thermal conductivity is outcome of migration of free electrons and lattice vibrational waves. So thermal conductivity is due to two reasons. First is migration of free electrons and lattice vibrational waves. In case of metals, thermal conductivity is due to the flow of free electrons, and in fluids it is due to the frequency of interaction between the lattice form. So here we need to see that the value of K can be due to the two reasons. First is free electrons and second is vibration in lattice. Okay, so these are the two reasons. Now in some matters this will be dominating and in other matters this will be dominating. So one of them will be dominating towards the thermal conductivity of the matter. Now in case of metals, free electrons are dominating, so the thermal conductivity is due to the free electrons. And in case of fluids, vibrations in the lattice are dominating over the free electrons, so this portion is more in case of fluids. So thermal conductivity in fluid is due to the vibrational waves in the lattice. Metals are best conductors while liquids are poor conductors of the heat. Now second is, thermal conductivity is always higher in the purest form of metal. Alloying of metals and presence of other impurities cause appreciable decrease in the thermal conductivity. So whenever we are having a pure material, it will be having its highest thermal conductivity value. Whenever we add some other metals or if any other impurities are present, then it will surely decrease the value of thermal conductivity of the original metal. Third point is, mechanical forming processes like forging, drawing or bending, or if we do heat treatment on the metals, then such kind of processes will cause decrease in the thermal conductivity of the original metal. So mechanical forming also reduces the mechanical forming, and heat treatment reduces the thermal conductivity of metal. Now fourth is, at higher temperature the thermal vibration of lattice becomes higher and retards the motion of free electrons. So the value of K, that is thermal conductivity, decreases with increase in temperature of metal. So as you remember that in metals, free electrons are responsible for the value of thermal conductivity. So whenever a metal's temperature is increased, then the lattice vibrations will increase, and this will reduce the motion of free electrons. So free electrons are responsible for the value of K. So as we have increased the temperature of metals, the motion of free electron reduces, and this will reduce the thermal conductivity of metals. So this is the reason that when we increase the temperature of metal, its thermal conductivity reduces. This is very important point. Fifth is heat transfer. Heat transfer by conduction in gases occurs through the transport of kinetic energy of molecular motion resulting from random movement and collision of molecules. At higher temperature, there will be an increase in the mean travel velocity and specific heat. Here, the increased agitation of gaseous molecules at elevated temperature results in greater frequency of contact and increase in molecular exchange rate, thus increase in thermal conductivity. So we will try to simplify this part, that is point number 5, that heat transfer in gases is due to the molecular motion and collision of molecules. So whenever we increase the temperature of the gas, these molecules will collide more. So there will be more collision and agitation will be there, which will result in greater frequency of contact and increase in molecular exchange rate. This will increase the thermal conductivity. So this point number 5 is trying to say that as the temperature of gas increases, the thermal conductivity also increases. For liquids, thermal conductivity decreases with increase in temperature. There is some specific formula behind this that I will suggest you to go through by yourself. So for liquids, thermal conductivity decreases with the increase in temperature. So if you consider all three, that is solid, not solid but metals, gases and liquids. For metals and gases, thermal conductivity reduces with increase in temperature, and in gases the thermal conductivity increases with increase in temperature. Seventh point is thermal conductivity is essentially independent of pressure for gases whenever the pressure is at near standard atmosphere. So thermal conductivity is independent of for gases at pressure near the standard atmospheric. Now, eighth point is, for most of the materials, the dependence of thermal conductivity on temperature is linear. That is, as temperature increases, it will linearly affect the value of thermal conductivity. We will see this with the help of one formula, which is K is equal to K0 into 1 plus beta T, where K0 is equal to thermal conductivity at 0 degree Celsius temperature. Beta is a constant whose value depends on the material. this beta value will be positive for non-metals and insulations and negative for metallic conductors. So what is the meaning of this? If the value of beta is positive, that is in the case of non-metals and insulations, then as T increases, K will increase. That is for non-metals and insulations, as temperature increases, thermal conductivity also increases. Now for metallic conductors, the value of beta is negative. So if beta is negative, then as temperature increases, the value of K decreases. So for the case of metallic conductors, the temperature increases means the thermal conductivity value will decrease. Now the value of thermal conductivity increases with temperature for gases, while it tends to decrease with temperature for most of the liquids. So this point has already been discussed in our previous slide. Ninth point is, for porous materials which contain air inside, the thermal conductivity is lower. And 10th point is, the ratio of thermal conductivity K and electrical conductivity sigma is same for all metals at the same temperature, and this ratio is proportional to the absolute temperature of the metal. So we will discuss this point again. It is trying to say that the value of thermal conductivity, which is K, and the value of electrical conductivity, which is sigma, this is constant. If you see again, this ratio, the ratio of thermal conductivity and electrical conductivity is same for all metals at the same temperature, and this ratio is proportional to the absolute temperature of metal. So this ratio is proportional to the temperature. So the meaning of this is that it implies that the value of K divided by sigma T equal to constant. So this ratio is constant, K upon sigma T, and this is known as Lorentz number. Okay, so this is known as Lorentz number. So this portion you need to write down by yourself, which is not available in this slide. That is the value of thermal conductivity, ratio of thermal conductivity to electrical conductivity is at the same temperature is proportional to the temperature, and this ratio K upon sigma T is known as Lorentz number, and it will be a constant value. So these were all important 10 points or essential features of thermal conductivity. Now the important theory is going to begin, which is general heat conduction equation in Cartesian coordinates. So we need to understand this very carefully. So we have taken an elemental volume in 3 dimensions, and it is in Cartesian coordinates. So this is a simple cube, and if you see, there are 3 directions. If you consider 3 directions as this will be X, this will be Y, and this will be Z. So here the heat is flowing through all three directions. That is, if you see, if we focus on this phase A prime, D and D prime, then this is the leftmost part and heat is entering, which is Qx. And if we consider the x direction of heat flow, then it is passing in this way and it is exiting this volume through a phase which is B, B prime, C prime, C. So it is exiting through this phase. Okay, and as far as dimensions are concerned of this volume, then the dimensions are dx, that is this, dy, that is this, and dz, that is this. So these are three dimensions, and previously I told you that the flow of heat is Qx and Qx plus dx. Now we will see the flow of heat in the y direction. So now I suggest you to focus on a phase which is D, D prime, C prime and C. So if you focus on the bottommost part, bottom phase, then the heat which is entering is Qy, that is from the downward side to upward side, and this is the flow of heat in the y direction, and it is exiting this volume through a phase A prime, B prime and B. So this will be Qy plus dy. So it is entering here Qy and here it is exiting. Then we will see the heat flow in the z direction. So for the z direction, you need to focus on the phase A, B, C and D. So through this phase the heat is entering, which is of value Qz, and it is exiting this volume through A prime, B prime, C prime and D prime, that is Qz plus dz. So this is the exit of the heat in the z direction. So we have already seen that the heat is flowing in all three directions, and now the change in temperature as a function of distance. So currently we are focusing only on x direction. Let us say that we are beginning with a location x where temperature is Tx. At a location x, temperature is Tx. This graph is of temperature versus direction x. So at x, the value of temperature is Tx, and at a distance of x plus dx. So this portion will be dx. So at x plus dx, the value of temperature is T subscript x plus dx. So there is an increase, or there is a change in the temperature. There is a change in the temperature as we move from the location x to location x plus dx. So this is given by this formula, that is the new value of T at x plus dx is equal to previous value, that is Tx, plus rate of change of temperature with the direction, that is del T by del x, into the distance dx. So the new value of temperature is equal to previous value, that is Tx, plus the rate of change of temperature with direction x, which is del T by del x into dx. And similarly we can also write down this for the value of heat, that is q x plus dx is equal to qx plus del qx by del x into dx. So this is the figure for understanding one-dimensional heat conduction. Sorry, general heat conduction in Cartesian coordinates. This is in all three directions. Now we will try to derive this. So consider that the heat is flowing through infinitesimal volume element oriented in three-dimensional coordinate system. The sides are dx, dy and dz and parallel to x, y and z respectively. So here consider that, let us say that kx is the value which represent the thermal conductivity at the left face. So the value of thermal conductivity in x direction is kx. Then the quantity of heat flow into the control volume will be heat influx qx. So now we are counting this value. Currently we are focusing on the value of qx, which is given by Fourier's equation. If you recall Fourier's equation, q is equal to minus ka dt by dx. So the formula is q is equal to minus ka dt by dx. And if you remember, q is the rate of change of heat. So this is with respect to time. So if we consider time, that is let us say d tau, then it is equal to minus ka dt by dx. That is, we can write down this as q is equal to minus ka, this is equal to sign, dt by dx into d tau, because now this is not time rate of heat, it is only heat. So instead of k we have written kx, and area is d by dz. So if you focus, if you focus on this figure, and we are looking for the value of area of this. So if we need to calculate this area, then area is multiplication of two sides. That is, this value is, if you see, this is this value is actually dy, and this value, that is d prime, is dz. So here this value of area is dy into dz. That's why you are seeing this. Instead of dt by dx, we have written del t by del x, because temperature depends on x, y, z and tau. Temperature T is a function of x, y, z, tau. Now we need to calculate the value of heat which is exiting. That is the value of, here if you see, qx plus dx in our figure. Qx plus dx. And this is given by value of qx plus dx is equal to qx plus del over dx qx into dx. Now we can go into our slides. So we have done up to this. Now the accumulation of heat in the elemental volume due to heat flow in x direction is given by, now what is the meaning of accumulation? That how much heat is gathering inside. So it will be equal to heat influx minus heat efflux. So the amount of heat which is entering into the phase minus the amount of heat which is leaving. So this will give us the amount of heat accumulated inside that elemental value in x direction. So it is given by this formula, that we take this qx minus qx plus dx. So it will be given by the formula, qx is as it is, and instead of qx plus dx we are writing qx plus del over del x qx dx. So again, to repeat, this will result in this formula because qx will get cancelled. Then instead of qx, here we have applied, instead of qx we have applied dy into dz. So we have taken dy into dz into d tau outside of this bracket. So in the bracket only those terms are present which are dependent on x. So this formula is for the x direction. Similarly, we can write down the same formula for y direction and z direction also. It is simply, we have copied this and we have changed x to y and x to z. So we are obtaining this equation. So these are heat accumulation in the y direction and z direction respectively. Now the total or net heat accumulation of heat is given by summation of all three directions. That is, In our previous slide we are having 3, that is, this is for x direction, this is for y direction, and this is for z direction. So when we add all 3, then it will give us net heat accumulation in all 3 directions. That is given by this formula. We have taken dx, dy, dz and dz d tau as common. So remaining terms are these. So here let us consider this to be your equation A, capital A. Okay. So now there may be some heat sources inside the control volume due to various reasons. It can be nuclear fission, flow of electric current in coil of electric motors, generators, or ohmic heating of the material. So these are various reasons for which heat can be generated inside. So let us say that Qg is the value of heat generated per unit volume per unit time. So if the value Qg is the heat generated per unit volume per unit time, then the total heat generated in the control volume is given by this formula. So Qg is multiplied with the volume and time. So what you need to do is you remember this equation as equation number B. And these are the 2 reasons through which heat can be added. So the total heat accumulated in the lattice due to the heat flow along the coordinate axis and the heat generated within the lattice, both A and B, capital A and capital B equations together serves to increase the thermal energy of the lattice. So this will ultimately increase the thermal energy of lattice. This increase in thermal energy is reflected by time rate of change of range in heat capacity of control volume, which is given by this formula, which is rho into dx dy dz c del T over del tau into d tau. So here you remember this equation to be equation number C. Now from where this equation has arrived, then if you see carefully, then this value rho into dx dy dz is actually the mass, rho into V. M, this is C. C is specific heat here, and del T over del tau, which is actually delta T. So this formula is related to the MCP delta T formula. Okay. So now what is going to happen here, that as we are having 3 equations, it is actually A plus B equal to C. This is going to happen in our next slide. So we will add these 2 equations, A and B, and it will give us the value of C. The energy balance gives us this formula, which is same as, so this is equation A plus the equation B equal to the equation C. The above expression is the general heat conduction equation. Now case 1 we are going to discuss, which is homogeneous and isotropic material. This was the one of the assumptions of Fourier's equation. So homogeneous means the properties are same everywhere in the material system, and the meaning of isotropic is isotropic means properties are not directional characteristics of the material. So they are independent of orientation of the surface. So whenever we apply homogeneous and isotropic material condition, then the value of K will be same in all three directions. So in such case, we don't need to write down separate Kx, Ky and Kz. We can simply write down a common K for homogeneous and isotropic material. So this will reduce in this equation. So from where it is arrived, suppose we take K common, then K will come out and this derivative will be double derivative, that is del 2 upon del 2t upon del x square. Similarly this 2, and as we have taken K common, Qg upon K will be there, and on this side rho c upon K will be there. Here there is an correction. Here d tau will not be there. And instead of K by rho c, instead of K divided by rho c, we have written 1 upon alpha. Okay, now we will discuss about alpha later on. Second case is steady state heat conduction, which is independence of temperature with respect to time. Then here, if you recall, in this formula we are having del T upon del tau. So if we say that temperature is independent of time, then this derivative will be 0. So right hand side will be 0. Now with no internal heat generation, then Qg will be 0. So it will result in this equation. The first equation is called Poisson's equation and second is Laplace equation. Third case is unsteady state heat flow with no internal heat generation. Then its equation is this. That is Qg term is vanished, and we are still assuming unsteady, so del T upon del tau is still there. Fourth case is one dimensional steady state heat flow with no internal heat generation. So it will result in this equation. This is from the first equation of our theory, that is general heat conduction equation. So if other directions are not there, then the y and z terms are not present. If no internal heat generation is there, then Qg will be 0, and for steady state this time derivative will not be there, so it will result in this equation, and ultimately we are getting d2t over dx square equal to 0. So these are all 4 cases of general heat conduction equation in Cartesian coordinates. So I will suggest you that you go back again to the starting of theory and slowly you derive it parallel to this video. Now our next theory for today is thermal diffusivity, that is that alpha that I was discussing. So now we will focus on this value of alpha, which is given by K by rho c. It represents a physical property of material of which the solid element is composed. So we will say this. Alpha is given by K by rho c. It is the ratio of thermal conductivity K to this thermal storage capacity. So rho into C is the value of thermal storage capacity. The thermal storage capacity represents the thermal capacitance or thermal inertia of material or its sluggishness to conduct the heat. So the higher the thermal storage capacity, higher the heat it can contain within it. So here if you see, K and rho C both are of opposite nature. So the behavior of K is to let the heat flow very easily or smoothly through it, and rho C is the storage capacity which doesn't surrender the heat very easily to the surroundings. So both are of opposite character. So the higher value of alpha can result from higher value of K or lower value of storage capacity, that is thermal capacity. Now liquids have low value of thermal conductivity K and high thermal inertia. So the value of alpha for liquids is less. And in case of metals, the value of K, that is thermal conductivity, is high and low thermal inertia, so thermal diffusivity is higher in case of metals. Now it indicates the rate at which the heat is distributed in the material. The large value of alpha means the rate of change of temperature at any point of material. Now the relative magnitude of alpha is the measure of rapidity with which the material responds to the sudden temperature of surrounding. So in case alpha is higher, that is the case of metals. So let us say that we are having a metal which we are putting it in a very high temperature. So that metal will also rapidly increase its temperature because of value of alpha is higher. However, if we apply the same thing for liquids, then it will not immediately change its temperature very rapidly because it is having sluggishness to the temperature variation. Metals and gases have large value of alpha. Metals and gases have large value of alpha and their response to temperature changes is very rapid. The non-metallic solids or insulations and liquids respond slowly to the temperature changes due to low value of alpha. Okay, so metals and gases have high value of alpha and non-metallic solids and liquids have low value of alpha. So this is the end of this lecture. So we will quickly revisit of what we have studied today. So we have started a new chapter today, steady state heat conduction. We began with Fourier's equation, Q is equal to minus K dt by dx. We also saw the assumptions which we made in Fourier's equation, some essential features of Fourier equation, defining thermal conductivity. So based on Fourier equation, we have defined the value of thermal conductivity by taking few terms as unity. Then the important remarks on thermal conductivity, that how on which factors thermal conductivity depends. It is highest in form of purest metal. Any kind of mechanical processing or heat treatment affects the thermal conductivity. Then how the value of thermal conductivity changes in solids, liquids and gases. The relationship of thermal conductivity with respect to the temperature, and we also studied about Lorentz number, which is K upon sigma T. Then we derived general heat conduction equation through Fourier's law. So this is the general heat conduction equation, and then we took different cases. 4 different cases, and then we studied about thermal diffusivity, which is given by K by rho C, and we saw that the value of thermal diffusivity is higher for metals and gases and lower for liquids and non-metallic solids. So this is the end of today's lecture. I hope you have enjoyed this lecture. Thank you.